Hello, you're listening to Gavin Jennings. This is a special Morning Ireland Extra podcast in which we answer listeners' questions on COVID-19. Thank you for sending on your questions to coronavirus@rte.ie. Our panel of experts are standing by. They've been with us on RTE Radio 1 since around 8:30, and they're going to stay with us online and on RTE News Now, on Facebook and on Twitter for about the next half hour or so. If you miss it, we'll put it out later as a podcast too. Our guests, Dr. Nuala O'Connor, is a Cork GP and the Irish College of General Practitioners lead advisor on COVID-19. Professor Mary Horgan is president of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland and a consultant in infectious diseases at Cork University Hospital. And Kingston Mills is Professor of Experimental Immunology at Trinity College Dublin. The first time I did one of these expert panels, which was some weeks ago at the start of the coronavirus outbreak in Ireland, we were all in the studio, so I suppose this does show you the difference this time, that we are all completely separated from each other this morning, but we're very grateful to Nuala, Mary and Kingston for taking our questions. Nuala, I'm going to come back to you first of all, and something we spoke about on the Morning Ireland programme at the start in relation to testing. For anybody who does get a call today, tomorrow or over the next few days to be told that the test that they have taken is positive, can you take me through what's going to happen to them after that?
Okay. If the test is positive, they will get a phone call, obviously by a public health doctor, not their GP, because the important thing then is that they start this process which is called contact tracing. So the person with the symptoms who now has been diagnosed as positive will have been self-isolating, and the members of their households will have been practicing the restricted movements we were talking about earlier. So what happens then is the public health doctors will try to cast that net a little bit wider, and they'll be looking at people whom that the person who has COVID was in contact with over the previous couple of weeks, and they may be contacting them just to check if they have any symptoms and advising all of them to practice restricted movement or self-isolating depending on the case. And one of the positive things that has come out, and you may have heard Dr. Tony Holan talk about this last night, is that it would appear that the public are already substantially cooperating with social distancing, because normally when they do this contact tracing they would expect to identify about 15 close contacts, but in actual fact it's down to about 5 on average now. So that's really good evidence that the public of Ireland are actually complying with social distancing, which essentially is one of the most important things. It is the most important thing probably that we can do now. All of that talk with Kingston earlier about the potentials of getting virus from the shopping and out running and everything like that. When you think about it, if we keep 2 metres away from everyone else, well, that cuts out the vast majority of that, as well as keeping our hands clean.
So, for example, Nuala, or Mary, actually, you might be able to take this question, and people, if they are told that they're positive, might be embarrassed or concerned about the people who will be contacted after that to say that they were in contact with somebody who had a positive test. I mean, if they had been talking at a 2 metre distance to their neighbour within the last few days, are they going to be classified as close contact?
Yes, they would be classified as close contact. First of all, it's really important that nobody should be embarrassed about having tested positive for COVID-19. It can happen to any of us. It can happen to me as a doctor. It can happen to my mother or my sister. So don't be embarrassed. This is part of what we're trying to deal with now. So what would happen is that the person in question gets who's positive gets a phone call from the public health doctors. They just will get a description of the people that they've been in contact with, and the public health doctors, who are specialists in this area, will make a determination of whether that contact was significant or not. Again, to reassure that most people who are positive and have the infection have a mild illness. So even if you get a contact and you subsequently are tested positive as a contact, your likelihood of having a severe illness is low. It's those vulnerable populations that we really need to protect. So don't be embarrassed. This is the best way is test, contact trace, and then isolate those who are positive.
A question for Kingston. Somebody had texted us in, or rather emailed us in, to say that they read that there are two different phases to the COVID-19 virus. The first one, which most people get, lasts 7 days, but the second phase starts on day 6 and lasts for 3 weeks, and 1 in 7 can get this. Is this true?
I think that's a bit of folklore. I mean, there's no doubt that there's an incubation period where people are not yet showing symptoms. But once people start showing symptoms, they sort of don't recover and get worse again. If that's what the listener is suggesting.
Possibly, yes.
So, no, I don't think that's the case, but and maybe the medics can comment on that. But my understanding of it is that that there's no sort of recovery and then remission. It's recovery and then you get better. So it's not. And as I said earlier, that once you recover, you're unlikely to get reinfected because of the antibodies that are generated. And we don't know yet whether those will be long-lived or not, and that's going to be a big issue when it comes to vaccination.
I can comment on that. So the virus is very new. It's only 4 months old, and we're still learning about how it affects the human. In a small minority of patients, about 7 to 10 days into their infection, some of them can start getting more problems, more difficulty in breathing. Now, this is a minority of patients, and that's why if you test positive, you maintain a contact with your GP by phone. Your GP checks on you, so that if there are any worsening of your breathing conditions a week or so into having the infection, that it's very, very important that you bring that to the attention of your general practitioner by phone, who will make the appropriate referral into the hospital if they deem that fit.
Lots of the questions that we got, as you can imagine, are quite specific to people's lives. One lady asking here, my daughter is expecting her first baby in the next 2 weeks. Is it safe for me to go to her home and help her after her baby is born? I'm concerned about the baby, not myself. I'm not infected.
Maybe I might take that one, Gavin.
Please.
I mean, obviously, newborn babies are a group that we're all, a part of all from when COVID is around. We have to be very careful about them because, they don't have robust immune systems yet. So if somebody doesn't have any symptoms, and if they're extremely careful about their hand hygiene, very careful about cough etiquette, if they have any signs that they're coughing or sneezing, even if they don't feel that they have COVID, they should stay away from the baby. But if you're feeling perfectly well, and if you're very scrupulous about your hand hygiene, then there is no problem in assisting somebody with their newborn baby. But it really, ideally, it should be that, somebody who is in close contact, household contacts are probably the best, keeping the sort of the one unit together, minimising contact with people from outside the home with a new baby. So there shouldn't be a whole raft of visitors coming, and normally when you have a new baby, everyone descends on the house, so that definitely should not happen. But if there's a specific one person, maybe a mom going to help her with her new grandchild, if they're well, but you really have to keep it very, very tight as to who has contact with that new baby.
Lots of people asking this question because the criteria for testing, or case definition as it's referred to, has changed this week. People asking if they now have if they develop a cough or head cold symptoms, no temperature or aches and pains, should they still contact their GP now?
Well, they should only contact their GP if they felt there's something that they needed advice on. The general advice is they need to self-isolate themselves, and their household contacts need to practice restricted movements because they could have a mild form of COVID. We don't know. It's still probably more likely to have one of the normal viruses that are around. So in the normal course of events, if you have a head cold, you know what to do yourself. You take some time out, you rest, you take fluids, you put paracetamol, and you're going to get better by yourself. So if this is something that the symptoms you have, well, I normally wouldn't actually be getting on to my GP, then there's no need. I mean, the GPs are obviously very busy at the moment, but you still need to do the self-isolation, and your household contents need their restriction. But if you are concerned or worried, or particularly if you have an underlying condition, so if you have asthma, if you have COPD, if you have heart disease and you're starting to develop symptoms, you may want to run through that with your GP.
My wife and I are in our 70s, we're both healthy, we live alone, and a son who lives elsewhere shops for us. We're content at home and we get exercise. Should we too distance ourselves from each other in the house?
No, is the answer to that. You're already a household contact. It's only if one person became very symptomatic. But again, you may have a situation there, as Mary we were talking about earlier. It may be that one person in the house is acting as the carer for the other person in the house. So they're a unit. So the household is kind of a unit itself, and they're already in such close contact with each other. As long as they practice very good hand hygiene and cough etiquette, that minimises their risk of passing an infection on to each other.
Kingston, I think you might have addressed this earlier on when we were talking about groceries. I've been told by my family that I should not be buying the daily newspaper due to the risk of contracting coronavirus. Please tell me if it's safe for me to buy the daily newspaper.
I think it's safe to buy the daily newspaper. I think, there have been suggestions that the virus can survive on cardboard, for example, for some time, but the levels drop off very quickly on surfaces outside the body. So I don't think there's a risk in buying the daily newspaper. If you're really worried, spray it with some household cleaner. I mean, the household cleaners that are chlorine based and that have detergents in them are very effective at killing the virus.
It does make it hard to read the paper, though.
I make it hard to read the paper, but sure.
Yeah, well, the other thing, Gavin, there is just think about it. I think people sometimes need to stand back and think about how you get this virus. You get this virus because somebody coughs in your face.
Yes.
Within 3 feet of you, or you put the virus on. You get the virus onto your hands from whatever surface, and you put your hands up to your face, and it gets into your nose, your eyes, and your mouth. So if you keep your hands clean and away from your face, you're not going to pick up the virus from anything.
I think it's sensible advice.
Mary, we've had quite a number of questions from people who are relatives of healthcare workers. Just to give you an example, I am in the risk age and I have well-controlled asthma, but my daughter is a nurse on the front line and a real threat to me. We are adhering to guidelines. She wants to move out to an apartment to protect me. Is this the best decision?
Again, a really good question and a very challenging question, because as we know, 1 in 5 of those tested positive are healthcare workers. And we have this frontline nurse coming back to a household where there is somebody more at risk in a vulnerable group. And that's why, I suppose, answering the question a little indirectly, is that we need to concentrate a lot of our testing on frontline staff like this nurse. If she's negative, then she's in a good position to come back into the household. What might help in that situation is that she is in her room with her own toilet facilities and is able to socially restrict her interaction with her mother, who's this lady who asked the question, who's more at risk. In some countries, in China, they moved the healthcare, the frontline staff into hostels and hotels so that they were all cohorted together. I don't think we need to do that at this time. I think the nurse who comes home from her frontline job goes into a room, has her shower, washes, follows all the precautions, and of course if she's any symptoms she self-restricts. But it is a really good question.
My 96-year-old mother has 5 carers 24/7. Some use public transport, obviously all with families, and some are also caring for other elderly people. Is this safe? I'm in isolation and also have asthma. What can we do?
There are many difficult situations that our public are involved in. This 96-year-old lady obviously needs care, and she needs a lot of care, as outlined by 5 carers the whole day. What in that instance is, once the carers are aware of their responsibility when it comes to hand washing, cleaning the surfaces within the household as part of their job. And a lot of this, again, is on the HSE website, that's what needs to be done. This lady needs care, and at the moment, the only way of caring for her is by the 5 carers that come in. So really speaking with the carers, making sure that they know what the hand washing, surface cleaning and so on need to be done once they come into the house, and particularly when they're caring for this elderly lady.
Kingston, if anti-malaria tablets have been shown to work in China and France, is there a stock in Ireland if asked for by patients, family as a measure against coronavirus?
Okay, this is very controversial because even President Trump said that chloroquine was a good drug against COVID-19. This has not been proven. It was a very small study done in France to suggest that there might be some efficacy in a very small number of people. The study in China, in fact, showed that there was no efficacy with chloroquine. So this is still very much for debate as to whether it has any benefit. There are much better, potentially better drugs coming along, which are specific antiviral drugs that are designed to stop replication of viruses, and these are in phase 3 testing. So I think the hope is much greater on those than just the chloroquine.
Now, we got questions about that. Sorry, Mary, go ahead.
Sorry, Gavin, I just